Hey, what's up, guys? It's Shadow from SG TCG, and today we're gonna bring you guys a different type of video here. And I'm here with Boring Peanut,
What's up?
Johnny Tsunami,
What's up, everyone?
and Kuma.
Yo, what up?
And this is now gonna be called the cOPecast. So, gonna try pushing out a weekly podcast, attempting maybe every 2 weeks, but gonna be going over the One Piece TCG card game pretty much as a whole and what we think of what's going to be coming out as far as meta leaders, what's going to be relevant, what we expect and what we plan on playing.
Yeah, and especially like right now where we're at in the West. I mean, we just had EBO2 and the OP11, then now the starter decks. I mean, there's so much happening all at once within like a month. I don't know, it's crazy right now.
I was gonna say, I felt like EBO2 came out last week, and now they're like, oh yeah, OP11 and 6 starter decks are coming out. Better make sure you have all the cards you need.
People do
I
forget that the last EB format was just as short, but the EB wasn't nearly as impactful. So that's why it felt so short for us.
Yeah, we got Hannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we
it
got
allows,
the relevant leaders. We got the relevant support like Cavendish and
I mean, the relevant leader, aka RP Law, rose to prominence during that time.
Oh
That
yeah,
was-
I forgot about that.
That was a terrible time for me. Attempting
Bro,
to
how do
play
you think I
Reiju.
felt? I was saying, I was the Ragey player too. It was like the worst thing ever.
And in my regional, I saw nothing but RP Laws and Sakazuki's. I was like, I hate my life today.
Dude, I was the opposite. I like hit a Yamato that just sweeped me, and then I hit an Enel that I kept up with it like really well, and he was basically top decking every turn. He was top decking a heal, and then his last life for 3 turns in a row was 0 cost event or a beige, and I was at the end like I couldn't even be mad because I'm still an Enel player, so he felt
just
bad, but
better.
I'm like, yeah, I was just like, dude, it's just a skill issue on my part. Like, I get it.
Yeah, the
Why
skill
didn't you
issue
play
is a
around?
60% chance that last
didn't you
card
play
just wins
around
them the
those
game.
Why did I play around it? I literally couldn't.
I just tell people just play around it being there. I don't know what else to tell you.
I know, I should have just forfeited. That's my way of playing around.
Your mistake is not playing yellow so you can have a card with banish in your deck.
Nah, actually, the
Yeah.
real strat is to not care, like I did against you, Kuma, where I just swung 17 3 times. Like, you don't got the 0 cost event there. I'm
Hey,
going for game.
You got Zoro
no.
access.
It was even worse. You stared at my 9-card hand and correctly assumed I had like 7 bricks.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
It's
Not
just
like
like
that.
GP bricked up like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
weird that has so much counter, but then that's also like weirdly a good thing because it's like how much more counter are they gonna have unless they gum, or they just have nothing.
Yep. And then no Sanji pudding with the deck. It's just the worst time in my life.
Yeah. I remember, I think me and Peanut were commentating one of the Treasure Cups. It was Vegapunk versus
Yeah.
Green Purple, and they just saw
Right.
0 Sanji puddings, and it was just tragic.
That was
was-
the weirdest game.
That was
I
mine
noticed a
and
big
Kuma's
trend.
round two.
I noticed a big trend of me playing Vega into almost every GP I found. I have the Namis ready, and I'm staring at their like turns 4, 5, and 6, and they still haven't dropped the Sanji pudding, and I'm like, oh no, they just don't have it in hand.
I
This
know.
is bad.
I searched 30 cards with the deck and saw no Sanji pudding. Multiple games.
I
they
think
in
yeah,
your
this was a
life?
skill issue.
No, they're at the bottom of the deck.
Oh my god.
There are at least 38 cards in the deck.
Jesus.
Just remember, guys, no matter what your statistics look like, you have to be better than me whiffing a Darishi playing Vegapunk in my last online regional.
Oh, that's
Is
rough.
that even possible?
Oh,
Like, is that
yeah.
statistically possible?
It's
Yeah, it
possible.
is.
There are 42 hits, which leaves 8 non-hits in the deck.
Yeah, I've only got it to where I only got one trigger. So I mean that already felt bad, but yeah, like completely with. Oh, remember again? This is bringing back what Johnny just brought up. That Vega. I think it was the Vega into GP Luffy, or maybe it was the finals. He what did he do? I want to say it was Darishi, or it was some other search he did. Dude, the top 5 was like stage and events. Like it was all his events and
Yeah,
stages.
I remember
And then
that.
then his next draw was the like last stage, and I was like, oh my god, like it's just awful.
He just
I remember
basically bailed
specific-
himself out with that search, put all those to the bottom.
I still remember that my Darishi bottomed 2 of my 8-cost kids, 2 of my 5-cost Sanjis, and another Darishi.
Oh yeah, because you were on the 8 cost. Okay, that's why you had
Yeah.
higher whiff chance. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Still
who cares about
statistically
that?
unlikely.
Who cares about that
Yeah.
little EBO2 meta? We're on to the big
You're right.
dogs now with OP11.
And
Yeah.
even then, I've been seeing that GP is still relevant in OP11 as well from the EBO2 meta.
So GP
11
actually
and
has
12.
a fairly, yeah. Well, 12 would be a different discussion, but the reason, the sole reason, just to touch on that, is because they decided that green needed a Hody Jones on a 4-cost counter event. So
Dude.
that's the problem.
Well, I
What's
think this,
the other one? We have 2 1-cost green events coming. We have the rest one, then we have something else that's also kind of nasty.
it's Tails 2
situational.
4 rested 4 cost.
That's
so
what it
it's
was.
On Krieg.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's original cost. So, like
What's
with
the card
Koala and those things, I'm not sure what the card name is, but it's just the green event that comes out in OP12.
Any Zoro event, you just don't say the name. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like those Doflamingo like events where they
At
just have a
least-
long name.
At least Doflamingos is a little bit easier because it's like a sentence, sort of, or something you would normally say. But then Zoro's is like 3 sword style sushi, whatever, like 5 other words, and all it says is like restand.
Demon Aura, 9 sword style, Ashura Blades, drawn, dead man's game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those are all from like I think like the first half of the anime. I think like the second half. I think even Oda just kind of gave up. They're like, yeah, I don't feel like giving them like long attack names anymore.
This one is against Kaido.
Oh, never mind. I must have just,
This is
I
fairly
must have
new.
blanked out.
This is disgusting.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they're one line, sometimes they're a synopsis.
Yeah, but I guess we should talk about OP11 since that's just what came out.
Yeah. So what leaders are okay? So let's start.
Let's start without
you.
talking about the big dog in the room from OP11.
Well, no. So let's each say what our number 1 favorite new leader would be from OP11. Starting with you, Andrew, Mr. Peanut.
I mean, to be honest, like, this is a set where almost none of the leaders are like, yeah, I gotta play that, but I guess I would say, yeah, I mean, probably Nami, but I think realistically the most fun for me is probably Luffy, sadly, and I hate saying that.
It's
feel
okay
like-
to say that you like it.
Yeah, I feel like on the opposite. I feel like I like all the leaders in this set. It's just that they feel like they got overshadowed
Well,
by
Ida
Luffy.
Luffy.
And the rest of them are all like really cool and interesting, but if you can't compete with
The
Blue
draw
Purple,
2 per turn.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like overshadowed by Luffy, but also some of them feel like one set too late.
Either one set too late or their correct support isn't here yet.
Yeah.
I personally wanted Kobe to just pop off as the black player. of the
I'm the
group.
exact opposite. I hope that deck wasn't good just because I read the leader effect where you can attack everything, whatever, and then it's like, oh yeah, you can't remove these cards ever. That
That's
does
Well,
not
'cause
sound fun to
exactly
me.
what I wanted.
Kobe had the unfortunate like incident of being this set's Yamato, where Yamato gets leaked. You look at the leaderboard and you're like, there's no way that this can't be like a top tier deck. And just because every other deck around it just performed better.
I feel the thing with Yamato is she can just steal games out of nowhere compared to like this, where like I feel like Yamato always has a chance to win just because if they don't have like the right stuff, you could just win immediately.
I'm more speaking from a deceptive, like looks amazing on paper, poor in execution standpoint. Because some leaders always have that problem.
I think the unfortunate event is I feel they already somehow perfected the red-black leader design with Garp for the first red-black leader, and it's like, I don't know where you're supposed to go for that color design after him.
He'll be rotated out.
Yeah. So Peanut said your favorite was blue purple Luffy.
Yeah, I think I have to go with Luffy for this set, at least like for this format.
For sure. And what did you say yours was, Johnny?
I mean, I think you already know, but I am a big Nami stan, so of course I'm excited for it. But also, I'm very interested in playing the purple Katakuri deck. I played some of it online, and it's deceptively good and strong, especially into the blue-purple matchup where you can cheese out the 8-cost Katakuri, which really sways in your favor.
Is an extremely fair deck. Like in terms of it does exactly what you expect it to do because it only has one line of play, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But it does it so well that it can be spooky.
I also like leaders that are flavorful to their characters in the show, and so your effect being the observation hockey is really cool. That's why I like all the law cards because they're basically shamble. And this is the only time I'll ever give Blackbeard credit, is because it reflects his ability.
That's my boy right there.
Mm-hmm.
So James or Shadow, what did you say? Did you say what your favorite from the set was?
I wanted it to be Kobe, but I'm gonna have to agree with Peanut on this one. Is that the Luffy is just too good to not choose. Having that draw 2 ability once you're at 8 down, essentially, you pick a card that's a straw hat, set your next draw, you heal whatever you want in life. Like, that's pretty gas.
It's basically I feel like it's when you have the Sanji stack, it's basically a draw 3 technically, just because you get the draw, then the Sanji plays the extra card, and so you're effectively getting 3 cards.
Yeah, out of like value. I think so. Like with the Luffy, like I think I've always been attracted to a lot of decks where I could sculpt my hand a lot, because like more like in high school and a little bit after, I was a very big Yu-Gi-Oh player, and like that's kind of almost a basis of Yu-Gi-Oh, of like you're sculpting your plays in hand. So like I'm big on like searchers and stuff. Obviously Luffy, like it's not really running searchers, but it's sculpting in a different way, which I enjoy.
That's just the Bonnie player and you talking.
Yeah, I mean when I was double searching up a Don Quixote package, I mean it was the time of my life.
I miss that it's not like the standard anymore. I love the double searchers, but then you always run that scenario where you do the Bonnie search first. It's all Dofi pirates, and then you do the Baby 5 search, and it's all supernovas. And it's like, I hate this.
I never minded it. Like I might have whiffed one time, but I ran the ratio so well, and I remember other Bonnie players being like, you know, why don't you just do the supernova? Like, doesn't it feel bad the whiff where it's like I have to take this and I'm bottom decking? And I'm like, dude, I am searching so much. Like, I will see what I need to see.
Well, when you're in like a tense game and you whiff both searches in a row, it just turned me off of that version of the deck. It kind of was. I was thinking before. I'm like, I was looking at the cards I had and I drew before. I'm like, maybe I should do this search first, and I did the wrong choice. It technically was a brain issue at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Again, you're running like half and half, so yeah, sometimes you do miss the thing you really wanted on the curve, but I still liked it because it was such a defensive mechanism, like at that time.
Yeah.
But we got our 3 picks. Kuma, what's your pick for OP11?
So, in terms of what I will end up probably being playing, I'll be joining Johnny wanting to play Nami just because it seemed like one of the stronger yellow-based decks right now, and we know that I legally can't play any other color. So that'll be one to stick with. However, my favorite leader pick of the set that I'm going to find a way to make work is going to be Shirahoshi, because it's exactly what my playstyle of decks has been up to this point. Yellow.
Dude, I haven't really tried it or even looked into it at all. I was even I think I'm considering even just like trying it out, because at least just like the very little I saw, I'm like, I feel like I would kind of like it like as a fun deck, and I feel like I could make it work a little bit too.
It plays like a bit of a slower paced Vega, but with bigger bodies. And that's with the trade-off where you get the slower pace. Like you can't really be aggro with that deck because it takes at least the first 2 to 3 turns to get any setup going. But with being a 5-life leader in the 2 colors that together can control better than they are individually, you have a lot of wiggle room to just adapt to plays as things go.
Yeah, I mean, some of the support is just crazy too.
Now, the biggest issue with the deck, and I don't know if they just intended for this to be complicated because they wanted it to be too flavorful, there are 3 different keywords in the deck that all 3 searchers search for different things.
Yep, it's the Calgara issue. I noticed that.
Yeah. Because you have the Neptunians, which are just the big fish. You have the Fishman Island type, which are anything that's from Fishman Island.
And the merfolk.
And then you have merfolks, which...
And then you have Fishman as well. And like some of them only don't search Fishman Island, but they'll search Fishman.
Exactly. Like the most universally good searcher is the 1-drop Shirahoshi tap searcher, because it can hit almost all of the deck. But there are still whiffs there.
Yeah, and like cards that would be like considered support now but printed in like earlier sets, obviously they weren't thinking ahead for a Shirahoshi searcher, obviously. So like some of the types on them I don't think are accurate to what they maybe should be. Where like maybe it's just saying Fishman or something, or like I get it for like because they're basing it off of the manga and the show, but it makes it very just wild and all over the place.
Yeah, like to your point, like one big example is the deck has no way to search Hody Jones.
Yeah.
Even though he's
top
classified
top deck.
Well, actually, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not true. One of the searchers does hit Fishman, and I think that's still the Shirahoshi. No, she hits Fishman Island.
Cammy.
Yeah, no, it's not the Cammy. It's the 3-drop blocker that flips your top life down to search. That one hits Fishman Island type cards, which would be the Shirahoshi or any of her family. But it can't hit
Toady is just Fishman. He's not considered Fishman Island, right?
Right. So the only one that can hit. Oh wait, no. Yeah. So Fishman Island. Yeah, actually, no. Nothing searches Fishman Island.
I forgot how it is, but I know what you're talking about. It's like, again, they did it like too accurate to the show and tried like splitting up factions. But then now when it's translated into the game, it's like, it just makes these decks feel funky. But I guess one good thing, just talking about Fishman in general, I'm liking that there is like a package coming together for Green Fishman.
Yeah, it's what I thought overall. Like, I was interested in Jinbei when I first saw it because I like the idea of this fight for the board deck where you just keep, like, with the Jinbei super rare just being like the key part of that deck where every card you could play will just be able to fight for the board immediately. And then the card you have active from last turn can just go for lead. I thought it was cool, but then, like we mentioned, that our blue-purple is just being so dominantly strong with its big body characters that playstyle really can't work currently.
So you play Arlong, just shit out 6k bodies from hand like Dofi.
Yeah.
There is an interesting card for the Shirahoshi deck though that I think people should kind of look at as like an overall a green tech, because it did win me some games when I was testing against Blue Purple Luffy, which is
Is it
the
Lord of the
Lord
Coast?
It's
Yep.
Lord of the Coast. Just a
Is that
conditionless
the one
on
that doesn't
play.
refresh?
Yeah, it's just a conditionless on play for cost 5k that you stun something till the opponent's next refresh.
Yeah, that was one of the most annoying cards in pre-release, and that is also, I think too, like when cards were getting revealed for OP11, or like just Shirahoshi in general, Lord of the Coast was like one of the cards that I'm like, okay, maybe there is like a chance, because just having like that stun card like at any time is so nice.
I didn't realize
And
this
it was
card is East Blue, so you can play it in your Arlong decks and
What?
just do the yeah, I'm looking at the
Yeah.
site right now and it's saying it's East Blue.
because
Was
I'm
it the
pretty
one that bit off
sure.
Shank's arm?
I
Yeah,
think
I'm pretty
so.
sure that's the one that
Yep.
Luffy punches in the beginning, because it's a Neptunian still. All
Oh.
the CBs are Neptunians, I believe.
Lower accurate.
Yeah, but you would just play out the Arlongs, like the EBO2 Arlong or the original
Well,
Arlong.
here's the thing: EBO2 Arlong doesn't work with Shirahoshi. It only works with Jinbei or the Arlong leader.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant, an Arlong.
Oh yeah, no, like that card. That card's a fantastic like anti-stun card because it stuns it in a much weirder way, but in a more annoying way.
Yeah, can't turn it sideways whatsoever.
Yeah.
Speaking of Arlong, I want to bring up just the Arlong card that came out in this set. Like
Oh, the 7/7
the
or
7/7 that you
4/7.
play for 4 Don. I'm just glad that this Fishman strategy is not that dominant, just because if you constantly just be able to play out 4/7s every turn, I would be very annoyed. Especially because like we were mentioning the Arlong leader too, they could cheat this out
they could
with
cheat
leader
this out.
effect.
I did it in playtesting. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I'm scared about all these cards that have these minus costs in hand. It just scares me for like the power level of like if your deck doesn't have like going into the future if they keep making these, and it's like if you don't have good cards like this in your deck, you might just be screwed.
Well, speaking of that Arlong and like power level and creep and whatnot going on, have you noted? I mean, I can't. Besides like Arlong, maybe that's a bad example. And again, I'm kind of jumping the gun, like looking at the OP12 Kuma. No, the Kuma. Have you noticed that there's some cards that it feels like with the effects they're breaking their like counter rule that they kind of established early on. Like if you look at the Secret Rare Kuba, it's a 6 cost 7k, and with that effect, even though I'm pretty sure you discard for the on play, heal, and it still has the KO, it has 1k counter. And then like you look at this 7 cost 7k Arlong, it's like, okay, I guess like it makes sense because it's a 7/7, but with the effect, it's like, why does it still have 1k counter? And I've been noticing it with some cards where it'll still have 1k counter, but the effect feels like too much to have 1k counter.
Yeah.
Not that I'm advocating for bricks.
I think what attributes to that though is, I mean, they do really pick and choose what they want to give that 1k counter to. Normally, if the card has a strong enough effect and also retains vanilla stats, absolutely would not get a 1k counter. If it's a very powerful effect, but it has just above an average stat line, like the Nami, the 5 drop 6k blocker that basically 1-for-1s herself. Like that's a reasonable way to get counter. But I see your point though, when it comes to like some cards that it feels like the effect's so strong, the trade-off should be it doesn't have the counter ability or the counter on it.
Yeah, and like I don't know, like I'm cool with these cards having counter, and plus two, again, like speaking of that Nami, we see that they're doing the cycle of like, oh, we need to get every color a queen. Like, and maybe dependent on their color, they kind of tweak it a little bit.
I like that too, but as a green player, ours just being a secret rare that's very conditional is not
Yeah, it's
fun.
not. Yeah, ours I think is probably the worst
Abani?
so far. I don't.
In terms of the hard
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're gonna give. Well, I guess. Oh, Rayleigh was the one for red.
That
And
thing is
then-
great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone that's.
I
I
think
guess Saba would be blacks, even though it is different. I think black has to kind of plussing in black for like not much of a cost. I think is not a good thing, and that's probably why they're just sticking with Sabo as like
yeah.
that
I mean, I'll say
blocker.
Sabo's still the best out of all those queen equivalents.
Oh,
Just
it's
because
still
of the
great.
blanket effect of
Mhm.
protection.
It's still great. It's just like black, like giving them like card draw would just no. We can't be giving black like I guess quote unquote free card draw.
That's what Blackbeard needs. Just saying.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, let's get. Actually, I got an idea for Blackbeard. Let's give it a 4-cost 0,000 power blocker. Activate main. You can get a 3 to 5-cost black card from your trash and play a
No.
3-cost rusted.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
good.
What if we just printed Blackbeard wins the game? Like as soon as you reveal the leader.
I mean, that's how it feels when I see that the 10 drop comes down.
I gotta
It's
work
like,
for
oh,
my
we're
wins.
just gonna win.
I gotta work for it, guys.
Man, not against Bonnie.
I'll be honest though, like it might just be the specific players I'm facing, but I'll like be testing Anel in like current sets or like decks like Anel, and I'm beating Blackbeards just because I kind of understood what the mindset has to be going into that, and that's just rush them down.
Yeah, no, I was seeing the same thing where like I feel like I can beat the average player. Like it'll kind of depend on like what I have in hand or what I'm seeing by turn 2. But against like a very skilled Blackbeard player, I feel like that like win rate we see like that kind of stays true, sadly, unless you get kind of lucky.
It just depends on the build. 'Cause a lot of Blackbeard builds has shifted from more of a control to being able to, handle the aggression, having those chump blocker, that like the BB blocker, and now we do have that caribou blocker, the one cost 2K, and then I'm not pitching cards because I negate all outplays for myself. So
Yeah, I remember when I first saw that card and I saw like Blackbeard in Japan not playing the Caribou, and I was like, this card looks absolutely crazy for Blackbeard.
Yeah, honestly, that's just because the East player mindset is they're so scared of whiffing that they want the deck consistency to be at almost 100%.
Yeah, I say it's not Blackbeard power, but I'm like, this is like the freest. It's like, I mean, I feel like it's very hard to whiff in that deck.
no, but
Anyways,
it is possible. I have
it's
done
possible.
it a couple times. Well, because
Yeah,
I
like
run the Laboons, and I ran more of a different package. Well, a lot of people obviously are throwing the Laboons back in, but I was running the Laboons for more reduction, so I ran less Lafettes, not with the Laboons as much. So I'm not searching as much if I don't see the Lafettes. Hope that I find stage to at least get the pitch to trash, but I was playing more of a control for Blackbeard for the longest time and shifted over to a chump block version for the rush.
Well, that's the Lucci in you. You can't get away from the control.
Yeah, I've stayed away from Lucci for at least 3 sets now.
Oh, it's
I
the
know.
same thing though. Is Blackbeard? Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna remove your whole board every turn. I'm like, okay.
You just can't play anything now.
Yeah, and depending like what deck you're playing, it's if you're playing Blackbeard control, it just feels like an auto loss unless again like so Blackbeard it's like yeah, it really doesn't whiff, but I guess you could almost consider Blackbeard whiffing if they just don't have what they want on curve for that turn. Like that's what I consider a Blackbeard whiff.
And that's very hard also, because nowadays
know.
you just set up the Kuzan and you leave the Kuzan on field because there's so much removal for Burgess. to where you don't want to see Burgess too early on regardless. You just want to build the trash up and then pretty much pop off Kuzan right before 10 drop if able to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't mind waiting a couple turns. I've been punished for bringing it out too early multiple times.
Speaking of
you-
Blackbeard,
Alright.
in addition to the OP11 release, we're getting 6 new starter decks, which includes your favorite Blackbeard. So what do you think about these new cards from the starter deck for Blackbeard?
Honestly, I was kind of underwhelmed from the SRs. Like, honestly, my favorite thing coming out of it was the Katarina Devon, which is another 2k reduction, and then it draws on KO. The Kuzan I thought was very good at first. I just feel like it just takes too much up of time of a turn. Because on my 6th on turn, I can establish this blocker. It gets KO'd. I can bring back the other Kuzan because it could bring back a 5 or less. But it comes back rested, so there's a chance my opponent just swings right into that Kuzan before I even get the chance to use that ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
at the same time though, you could either like if you're needing to block on their first swing and get something, like hopefully you have a Burgess at that point, so you would just get that over the Kuzan. But otherwise, I would say the Kuzan blockers at best optimized, just full blocking whatever last attack they do, because then you get back that cheaper Kuzan. to go off
Yeah,
faster.
but at best, I'm running this card at a 2 of. I'm not maxing this in my deck at all. 1 to 2 of in the deck, in my opinion. For me, for my place, I'd rather have more of the control. I'm gonna probably shift more back to that control build style for reduction, because then there's that other teach, the 7 drop 8, activate main, KO, a 3 cost or less, and then this thing can KO anything. So I can KO my own characters, because a lot of the times, dot Q, my opponents would just leave the dot Q on the field because they know if I don't have the reduction, it's useless. Teach can now pop that dot Q, and I can just draw off my own dot Q on turn that it's played. And then it has a higher reach compared to dot Q being at only 1 of. But again, at best, this is another maybe 2 of, and then on KO I could grab whatever black card from the trash, including itself, which is very good.
I thought something. Can't you technically KO itself with its own effect and grab it back?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's stupid, but yeah, you can.
But it's got to be a 3 or less.
Like what's the important thing here though, and I was mentioning this, is not the fact that not the effect itself, but the fact that the effect can work that way now, because this is the first time, minus maybe 1 or 2 very, very gimmicky cards, where we've seen cards be able to let you interact with your own stuff. Because we've gone through multiple sets of this game now, where I'm coming from games where part of a lot of strategy is some decks want to do like negative effects to your own stuff for benefits, while One Piece never really had that kind of layout. Like, there were times when I'm looking at like blue cards thinking, oh, I want to be able to bounce my own stuff back to hand or bottom deck or do whatever. And the first time we saw the example of that was Law, and see how powerful that 4-cost Law was.
Hated it.
I
love
probably
that.
like the 6-cost Boa Hancock from OP07, where you would stun something on your turn and you would bomb deck like your 1-cost Searcher and then get the draw off the leader effect.
Yeah, but like Blackbeard's our first instance of being able to force KO something, which in a game that gives us on death effects pretty heavily, like it sets a very interesting but maybe dangerous precedent going forward. Because then I'm just imagining a deck where popping your own stuff becomes easy, and then your opponent's yellow-black deck running 4 Basal Hawkins.
Yeah, but the only problem is you have to somehow reduce your own costs, which I don't really know it's possible, like, on your turn to have.
Well, I mean, you're only gonna use it for like your, again, like dot Q or
Well,
just
I'm not
a
saying the
draw
Blackbeard.
card.
Yeah, what I wasn't saying was this Blackbeard specifically. I'm saying for future card
Yeah.
development. Because now they're showing us that
yeah.
they're not afraid to be printing this effect going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, do you guys remember? Was it OPO3? There was that. I think. Whitebeard, like people tried the Tekken and the Whitebeard for maybe like the first like 3 weeks. It was Marshall D. Teach. It was the red one, where it was you would trash your own character and it would gain like 2k power or something. Like
Yeah,
dumb
right.
like
I know
that.
what you're talking about. Yeah, that card.
That
Yeah.
card caused a lot of weird, a lot of problem rulings where people were confusing trashing with KO at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes, I remember it because I think was that our first instance of trashing on the field. I think that might have been.
That may have
could
been
be
one of the
wrong.
first relevant instances of a card specifying trash instead of like discard or KO or something of the like.
Well, I think it always said like trash from your hand, but I want to say it was the first trash like on the field.
It says you may trash one of your red characters with 4,000 power or more, and then you draw one.
Yes, and people were confusing that because I think I remember people would try and trash their Marco and pitch an event and bring back Marco. And I think there might have been like another. I think it was usually with Marco, and that was the ruling confusion.
And that's another example of me saying that like for future precedents, if they're going to be printing effects that will let us KO our own things, cards like Marco, where they specifically design that card so you can't get a repeated on play effect from abusing his on KO effect. But I mean, he's in block 1, so maybe they'll think that design space might be okay after certain cards are rotated out.
Yeah, because I think so far for like KO or trash your own characters, I think it's just Teach, the red, and obviously this new black one, and then Stussy. Which obviously it's all just because again they like to keep things lore accurate, tie in the cards. But I mean, as of right now, I think those are our only type of characters that like trash your own characters. But obviously, as we know, trashing your own characters isn't really doing anything because it's on KO effects you would want.
And that's where it helps out in Blackbeard to get rid of that dot Q. But I also think that Blackbeard will be used in Lucci because you are able to grab any black card. So obviously Lucci mills 2 for ability. You know, once you mill that 10 cost Kuzan, you're kind of shot. And, you know, that's a way to get it back if it is KO'd, you know.
Yeah, I think like as long as there's black decks, and again right now it's like Lucci really that's running Jack effectively. I think you're always going to be able to switch between Jack and Teach depending on meta. Like when there's not like super heavy removal metas that you're caring about cost, or like green, like you would want to run Jack, or consider your options, you never know. Or if you're not really worried about cost too much, then the Teach is probably what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm fine with if I'm playing Teach so I can actually carrot stun that card. Compared to just like every time you see Jack come down, I would just look at the 2 carrots in my hand and just sigh,
Cry a little
knowing
bit.
that it's not gonna do anything. But I'm also for this Blackbeard starter deck. I don't really play Blackbeard that much, but I'm a believer of the Pizarro card.
No.
I think it's good. The card where you rest your stage, you give it plus 4,000 during the turn.
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting.
I just don't like it because you're not gonna fill your trash and cycle for the turn. You get one big swing, and they might leave it because they don't want to give you a draw. But I don't think it's worth losing out on the stage search.
I think they just wanted to give it. I think they just wanted to give Blackbeard like some newer options for like different, I guess like lines of play or play styles. Because if they just like heavily did more of the super like control heavy, like that's kind of a scary thing. Because Blackbeard is very good, but if they made it like even better, like that could detract a lot of people from playing. Like I think a lot of better players or just people who don't get upset because like, oh, I lost to like tier 0, like they would be okay. But like any like newer or more casual players, any decks like that, it really pushes them away from like
Yeah, I felt
the
so
game
bad
play.
last week at locals. I ended up playing, a fairly new person, and I decided to give Blackbeard their, last hurrah before I start playing UP Luffy. She's playing Katakuri, and yeah, she was unable to just play the game, and she just sat there like, what do I do? I'm sorry, you can't swing with this now. It's my 10 drop. Your 10 drop can't do nothing.
Just tell her to trigger Kikanojos.
I made she got him and had to hard play them, which was lucky for me. But yeah, it's just I can see that aspect of being unable to play as a new player. You could just be very unattractive to the game. I contribute to it though, so I mean.
Yeah, it's like how new players also, or like even more casual players, even if they have been playing for a bit, it's how they would view 8-Cost Kid and Bonnie, where like they would lose to it, like a hard lose to it, where they're just like locked, and it's just like not fun for them. Like it doesn't feel like there's a way out, and then they'll spend, like 3 turns just being like, I guess I have to swing 10, I guess I have to swing 10, or just keep blockering up, they can't do anything. And like that sort of loss like really hurts.
Yeah, I think there's a few decks like that where it's like there's actually like a learning curve hurdle for you to like when you just start playing that it's like it really has to force you to like learn the game and to like spend a lot more time thinking about it, just be able to like win these few matchups just because it doesn't some of them are not very intuitive of how you're actually supposed to play it for a new player. So another similar one is Enel. A lot of newer players really don't know how to play around the leader ability and like the play style, and so if they don't have the time to like learn, they could just turn them off from playing the game.
Yeah, that was a big problem, especially when we got Ep1, when we had Rygo. That was like a big issue of like I would see all the time online, well, even not as much in person, just because people are normal in person, but then once they're online they go ape shit, where people hated Enel so much that they just thought like Enel was the most toxic deck ever. You can't win against it, and it's like you can. It's just you can't. You actually have to like think about how to beat it, and not just swing, swing, swing. Oh, they healed again. I mean, it's there's decks in the game that just do that. It's kind of like a gatekeeper from going from like newcomer to like actually staying and playing the game.
I didn't mind now.
Enel expert. Does our resident Enel expert have anything to say?
About which part?
Any of it?
I guess about more like newcomer or super casual players that would go against Enel and think it was like the most toxic thing ever, but I pretty much just said it was. I think that was like one of the first roadblock leaders that was printed in this game that like made newer players realize they have to play differently, or if they don't, like they're just so punished.
No, I do agree with that, and it did feel bad. Enel definitely came out during a time of the game where they figured out kind of what they wanted the game to look like from a more competitive standpoint, because that was definitely a deck that you needed like multiple sets of player experience to kind of wrap your head around facing, which was like a big thing because it was all matchup dependent. If you're playing something, you had to know, okay, how does this play into Enel? Or you have to know like the ins and outs of that deck, because that was everyone's like most horrid matchup of, okay, do I rush them down? Do I let them control me? Do we go to time? And it took people like multiple sets to kind of figure that out. Like case in point, Enel being definitely like one of the best like 3 decks of the set it came out in. Obviously, it even won nationals with Jonas that same set.
Mm-hmm.
Just kept falling off as sets continued. Granted, I mean, Yellow didn't always get the greatest support, but it's because people got smarter, decks got better. So at the time, I absolutely agree with you that it was one of the most frustrating decks to really just run into, or that people were struggling with.
Yeah, because even at the time with like Purple Luffy and Sakazuki, like that triangle of top meta, like even though Sakazuki was like removing your board and stuff, um, it's still, again, you would just count it as like, okay, I got them down to 1 life. I just need 2 swings through. And like, again, even though with an L, it should be a simple count of like, okay, I swing once, they heal, I swing again, I swing again. But then what if they have the 0 cost trigger? If I don't get through, am I punished? Because then they could just heal again, and then now I need to get 4 swings through. Like it just kind of messed up people's perception of how to win the game.
I'm even though it's not good for the new players, it's not like your entire locals are just gonna be these decks. So if anyone's wondering, if you show up, you're not gonna have like 80% of people not gonna be playing these insane matchups that are like hard for you. But I still think they're good to have in the game because it just forces you to learn and just become better. It's just a good learning tool. Just because if you want to like get better and take this game seriously, having these types of matchup where you're forced to change how you play and understand the game better at a fundamental level, it makes it just makes you a better player overall.
Yeah, made me learn how to wait against the nuts. I got a board and just fucking pressure.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how you have to do it. If you're not playing like specifically like a aggro deck, you kind of have to match Anel's tempo.
But I know we went on a whole sidetrack there. But going back to the new starter decks, I know we talked about Blackbeard. But one of the other ones that I'm super excited for is the new Luffy starter deck.
Yes, I'm also very excited about this. I picked up my black purple leader a month or so ago because I knew we didn't know what the cards were yet, but I had a feeling that the cards would be good, and I wanted to try the deck out. And I saw like the actual full list of cards, and I'm like, these are all pretty good, maybe except the Frankie. But the rest of the cards I thought were like really cool, or had like or strong or very cool. I like the idea of the Silva Mask card. I know a lot of people weren't that high on it, but I like the idea of this card, and I'm gonna try to find a way to get this in. Because if you play the Sangoro, or not the Sangoro, the Sanji 2K blocker, or the 7 cost rest a character, 5 or 6 or less. And then next turn, the next turn you could just bounce it back to your hand and play this for 2. I think there's merit to looking for this.
And then you could play the Sanji again the same turn.
Yeah.
As well. But a big card coming out of the starter deck, and I think it's going to be this new Luffy, the 6 cost, on play, down -2. If, your leader's multicolored and your opponent has 5 or more down, you get a base power of 7,000 until the end of your opponent's turn. And leader sees that down -2 and you just re-ramp it right back with one of them being active.
Yeah, I'm glad they were smart and realized that they don't make this card say your leader gets plus 2,000 power, so you can't stack the effect, because Black Purple Luffy, technically on 10 down, you could just go this first one, or if you have one field, play with another one from hand, get the plus 2,000, get the Don back, and then swing, go -2 Don, and it'll be at 8, but then you'll just go back to 10 the next turn anyways.
It's another BY Luffy that could have happened.
I'm glad they learned their mistakes with that leader.
But
yeah.
Go ahead, come on.
I was just gonna say, like that was something I was very happy about seeing, that kind of design space, because obviously we're seeing a big surge in like power creep effects, mostly affecting leader power, because they're either printing base statted 6k leaders, or I mean we'll eventually get this Roger 7k leader, God forbid whatever that does. But with that in mind, this card design, like you said, like they made sure that this card wasn't abusable, and I think that also makes it interesting, because this is like one of those high impact cards that once you see the first one, you don't want to see it again. Because granted, it can die, sure, but like let's say they ignore it the whole game, then every copy draw after that is beyond a dead card.
And that's what I like about the Frankie that the deck uses. You can pitch it, draw another 2, or Gum Gum Giant pitch as well. So I just feel like the purple Luffy deck, purple black, it's kind of not. You have a way to filter. I feel like at some point through the deck.
I think one of the I don't think it's underrated, but this Tony Chopper card is really interesting, especially with the way the meta is forming out, with a lot of top leaders being purple straw hat leaders, who a lot of times leave up 1 Don for Gum Gum Giant. And so technically any purple deck later in the game has access to just rusting that Don. On top of you getting a blocker off this, I think is very strong.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that's as much as I think, like, out of all the starter decks, I think that 6-cost Luffy might be the most powerful, like, in a vacuum. I think that Chopper is my favorite card from that starter deck specifically, just for the Dawn Rest, but then one of the biggest things is it being a blocker. Which again just forces your opponent, like depending on like situation, like if you're talking about in game, it might force your opponent to stall another turn. Do they have to rest it? Do they just have to go for, like, I don't know. Like I think that could be a game warping card depending. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you're gonna see it that much, to be honest.
Well, I mean,
I think it's a nice tack.
I feel like you'll probably see this in green purple Luffy, just because I feel it fits so well into that deck, with just like the Don -2, with like Sanji Pudding, and just being purple straw hat that you could just use pretty easily with like all the extra Don you get available with that deck.
Yeah, they'll probably tech it until OP12 until they get the event. I mean, I could see it being tacked just because of blue purple.
Yeah,
But that's
possibly.
I think that's one.
Just that Don -2. You also want to proc your leader ability, so you're just gonna lose out on 2 Don also. So it's very situational, probably going for endgame only. But I do see it.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. I mean, if you really feel like you need to run it, you would run like 1 or 2.
I just feel like GP goes wide enough to the point where you just dwindle the hand size.
Yeah, that's
probably
true.
tech and discard in, but that's my sense on it, especially with playing the deck this last couple weeks. And I've seen Radio Knife being teched in for more removal.
Radio Knife got me hard in one of my Vega versus GP matchups.
Yeah, so I just feel like GP is more of an aggressive approach than trying to chump block with, or like, you know, Don -2 to rest the Don and then chump block with it. It's just gonna go on more of the aggro, because you're just gonna Sanji Pudding, Zoro, then Secret Luffy, and then you're gonna have to deal with the board. Or
That's
go for
true.
lethal.
Yeah, you're either just building board and you're gonna have like a lot of swings that they have to go through, or like I saw one like mirror match in I think they're regional, like online regionals that happened over this weekend, and the GP Luffy player got like, forgot the exact like turn order, but they got a Sanji and Pudding and then 2 Frankies. So they were able to keep using their stage and then just regain like more Dawn than they had the turn before, and they just aggroed them down like turn 4 with Secret Luffy, where the GP player was like, I can't do anything, I'm just screwed. And I feel like that's probably how GP just needs to run that way.
Yeah. But Kuma, which out of the other 4 starter decks are you excited for?
I have a guess.
Oh, I mean, waiting on the reveals. I was obviously like sitting like every day, refreshing, wanting to see what yellow stuff Yamato kind of gave us. Now, while I'm not disappointed, I see that they were going like heavy into just Yamato's whole deck theme. So instead of really yellow support, it was a pretty strong like yellow Wano support, which would just fit more in Yamato period. But I do think the 6-drop Momonosuke is interesting as like a possible option for a good handful of decks, honestly. Mainly because yellow's biggest fall off, and I'll always kind of use Enel as like a case subject for just yellow as a whole, is Enel struggles hard against not only decks that have just better big bodies in it, but also we're seeing again the surge of 6K, if not base leaders, but leaders that are 6K cross turn. So BP Luffy, GP Luffy, I count Shanks as a 6K leader also just because of how the ability works. So it always made it so awkward because Yellow's biggest thing was we have to use up every resource possible just to produce a body, heal, keep ourselves alive. Never leaving Don for like efficient leader swings like other decks kind of get to play with. So half the time I'm just not swinging with Enel because the swing just goes nowhere. And this kind of giving us an option of technically being like a constant 6K leader during our turn, as long as you can keep the Momo alive, opens up a different strategy that I'm looking forward to kind of messing with.
Yeah, I'm really liking this card too, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm playing Blue Yellow Nami, and I had the idea of, after seeing these cards, of just basically trying to almost run a full Wano package in Blue Yellow Nami, just because of how a lot of the interactions work with her, with Hiyori giving you the draw, and Blue Yellow Nami playing Teach, where you could technically Momo, then Teach, and then get the rush.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. Like Anami, kind of utilizing the 2-cost Teach, which when I first saw it, I thought that was like a kind of genius thing to first mess with. This just synergizes so well with this support, especially when you look at like the 1-cost Yamato Searcher. If you get that in with a Teach turn, you're getting kind of a free 5K swing on a 0K body that you're almost forcing them to attack at some point. Otherwise, it's constantly presented as a attacking threat.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'm wondering if that's gonna change how. I mean, it'll take a little bit, because again, like usually we wait like quite a while. The East kind of figures out decks for us. Like I'd say 90% of the way before we actually get them and like really start changing for our meta. I wouldn't be surprised if someone kind of, not saying she's gonna be like, oh, one of the best decks, but I could see someone possibly cracking like a Wano Nami build a little bit. The kind of give it the swing power it needs while still being able to be defensive like how it wants to.
Well, I think just this Yamato makes the deck more defensive, like we said, because you're gonna have to use a swing or something on this 0K body, and that just feels bad every time if you don't have like a searcher on the board.
You're having to waste the 5K into that.
Also, it's important to note that since this is the first yellow, I think this is the first yellow Land of Wano searcher, right?
Yes.
Well, because in later down the line, we're getting the Ace and Whitebeard starter deck, which has the super rare Kozuki Odin, which is Land of Wano, I'm pretty sure, which becomes the boss monster of the Blue Yellow Nami deck when it comes out. So you'll have a way to be able to find like your key card every time, which just makes the deck even stronger.
Yeah, because then you can actually play it when you want to and not being like, oh, I got it a little bit too late. I don't know how to play this and like still like stabilize.
You're talking about the Witch Odin, the 7-drop?
Yeah, is that Land of Wano?
Yeah, you're talking the 7-drop that gets double attack?
The new one in the starter deck, the black.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. You mean the starter deck that we technically don't get in time?
Yeah, it is Land of Wano.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I couldn't fully grasp the strength of this Momonosuke, just because, well, one, the effect is obviously going to throw a lot of people off. Like, people are going to misread this card for definitely the first month, to be honest. But the way that it works gives such interesting turns to either like Yamato or a Nami player if they have like the teach out. Because I was watching a gameplay of the Yamato versus a GP Luffy, and it was one of my more favorite Japanese player channels. And because they already know what the starter decks are going to have, they're already kind of pre-testing, even if they don't get it for a while. But the amount of pressure the Yamato can just give going first, once you're on your 7th Dawn turn, assuming you have a body out already, which is probably a Kiku Nojo because of the way they stack life and dealing damage, a 7 Dawn turn essentially turns into a 7k double attack swing, an 8k swing with the Kiku Nojo, and an 8k swing with the Momonosuke. On 7 Dawn, that's like really like strong of an aggressive turn that most decks can do.
Yeah, no, it's really powerful. I really think, I mean, again, just with like the blue purple boogeyman, it still kind of keeps yellow aggressive decks out, because yellow aggressive decks still aren't as fast as like red ones. It's usually like we start hitting really hard, but it takes like a few turns. That's typically how yellow aggro kind of is. But I don't know. I'm definitely curious to see how Blue Yellow Nami will kind of evolve with this starter deck, or just see how Yamato does. I mean, it's still, Yamato's one of those decks, like, it's not winning anything, but with new support, like, it can just be one of those decks that you just show up and high roll.
Yeah, you'll never know when you play against this deck. They could just you could have a bad draw, they could just have the best draw, and it's like there's always a possibility for that deck just coming out on top because they could accelerate the game so fast if they get like the first double attack off.
Yeah, and there's some decks, like, you know, some of the top decks that are meta, like, do they really want to take that? Because some of these decks are like glass cannons.
A lot of them.
But, yeah, but so my favorite starter deck, I wish I was saying Bonnie, but I wasn't. I'm out of like Doomer mode from the Bonnie deck, just because I really do like the Kid Killer Searcher, but I'm actually kind of excited for the Buggy starter deck, because it fixes the curve so much, and that Crocodile Mihawk, I think, is just such a powerful body.
Yeah, like the overall the package is definitely, I think, the strongest package if you like look at all the cards together for each starter deck. You with the Buggy one, you can clearly see that they're like, oh, we want this to be good, just because of the level of like every card they added.
Just
Yeah,
that super rare
and-
buggy is probably the worst card.
I would say it's the worst, but I've seen scenarios
not as
where you want to
bad.
play like at least like one or two, because there is scenarios like go in second. This is like one of the ways you can get your Mihawk out on your turn 2. You know you're going down a lot, but it's like sometimes you just need to get that like 7k blocker on the field immediately, just so you can stop like pressure or just have that 7k swing already.
Yeah, and you could tell they really wanted to fix Buggy as much as possible. I, uh, I guess like Bondi has so much been doing, you know, putting in a patch fix with like all the promo like buggy cards that they've been doing, like the ones that we just got from the pre-release, and then like
Yeah.
the starter deck, they were probably like, oh, it was probably like the last one they were playtesting before they had to start printing, and they're like, yeah, that's good enough. And then they realize you either just like completely die to removal, or you just kind of run out of options. Not that it was like a terrible deck. It's just I think they wanted all 4 Emperors to like be good, and Buggy just kind of was there.
Well, the issue is they didn't give us the one promo in the set that he would actually be good in when Doflamingo's running around terrorizing everyone. If we had the promo Buggy, it's just a completely different story just because it just deletes the matchup. And then you play against Blackbeard, and Blackbeard's like, yeah, I can't lead effect ever.
Yeah, it would have been so much better if we had it, but again, that's why like I'm saying like it feels like they're doing like a patch fix on the game where they're just like, okay, let's just crap out a whole bunch of cross guild cards and like let's hope it fixes it.
I still don't believe they made this Alvida a common card. This might be one of the craziest commons I've ever seen.
Oh, was it the?
It's the on
If you-
turn draw 3, ditch 2.
Yeah, it did too, and then it becomes a
That's what it
5 cost
was.
as well, and it could still swing. It's like that's just an absolutely insane card for the leader.
Yeah, and it's so nice that they're giving the +1s.
Mm-hmm. Well, it still wouldn't be a +1. It would just go neutral with the card,
Yeah.
because when you draw 3, ditch 2, you're also the extra card you're drawing is the equaling out the Alvida. But even going even on these card plays is very helpful
Yeah.
for like, the Buggy deck, because it bleeds so much hand to try to establish this board.
I was gonna say you're also going even too with the new Crocodile, and if you do the new Crocodile, Mihawk, and Alvida, you're still going even, but you searched 5 cards of your deck, and then you just got rid of what you don't need, and so you should have your hand lined up after that play for the next
Exactly.
turn or 2.
At worst, you just -1 there because you're pitching 1 for leader ability, but past that, you're not like subtracting anything else from hand, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I don't know why I was thinking when I was thinking +1. For some reason, I was thinking +1 cost because I could have sworn they.
It does
did
have a
that.
+1 cost. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. That I mean, obviously the draw, so you can go even and like cycle through. But just being able to have these like 4 drop bodies now would be 5 costs. So then it doesn't feel like it fills a spot on the board that counts for Buggy.
Yeah.
Like that's really what kind of mattered, and then still being able to go even in your card advantage.
Well, one of the main issues with Buggy was if you win second, your turn 3 was basically like you like play peel off or like and swing or just full swing, and it's like they really did not have much to do. But if you're going like first, you can peel off, and then they're not really gonna play anything threatening. But then you can just do your leader effect. But going second, it just felt so bad doing nothing on 4.
Yeah, until you hit like 6 Dawn, like you're either playing blockers or drawing with peel off, and like it just never felt good. It never felt good. It always felt like you were behind, and then like besides like a couple matchups, like every win that I would get with Buggy, I'd be like, it feels like I just won because I finally found the cards that I needed, or like I'm stalling out until hopefully like I can run them out of gas with 10 cost Buggy, or they were slow enough that I have free swings with my 7k bodies. What?
I think we're not. I think we just glossed over the fact that the Crocodile Mihawk has one of the craziest extra effects on the card.
Yeah,
Or if any of your cross guilds would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you could just trash a card instead. Doesn't have to be specifically a cross guild card from hand, just any card.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember. Any card is so nice because then you can just get rid of like some of your tech cards that you might not need anymore if they're still gonna run stage, which I think they might still run a couple stage. Again, just to fix like opening hands if you do get like, you know,
Yeah, I was
too
either
many.
debating that
You
is
know,
running the search event or the stage. I was just trying to debate which one's better.
I think the
yeah,
stage is good for the cycle. Being able to
yeah,
cycle even
I do like the
after
stage.
all the draws that you're gonna get off the characters, still having the option to be able to bottom deck 2, draw another 2 is always great in my opinion, especially for Buggy. Dig a little deeper into the deck.
Yeah, because sometimes I don't want like when I'm like, okay, Mihawk's a cool card, but I do not need 2 of them. Or it's like you're looking because obviously our buggy cards, like our 8 costs now can play a 5 cost. Our 7 cost crocodile, I think that also plays out a 5 cost, but then our 7 cost buggy plays out a 6 cost. So when like a lot of times when you're fixing your hands, like it'll be like, oh, like what am I trying to say? Like you're trying to find the right combo pieces, but I think this is all going to be fixed. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like there's that was the problem with you got your border removed and it wasn't just like consistent enough, and then like this starter just fixes everything.
Yep, but now on to the other 2 starter decks. We have 2 left. We do have we'll leave Bonnie for last for our 2, green players in the podcast here.
You mean carrot?
Yeah, the carrot starter deck.
you
But
mean green yellow law?
Yeah.
But going on to Shanks, so Shanks looked very promising after that 9 cost reveal. Obviously, if your opponent has a character with 8,000 base power or more, give this -3, play it out for 6, and then you have a 6/10 or a 9/10, very early on potentially, or being able to do that and establish a blocker. Just absolutely disgusting. But I personally think this will probably be better in, RP Uta. Being able to rank.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
very funny that they
But-
just disguised this Shanks deck as an Uda starter deck.
Yeah, and it also gives your leader a plus 2,000 base power. And I like that they did this for all these starter decks. And this is why our meta is going to be completely different than the East, because obviously UP Luffy was just dominating over there. Being a 6k leader, a lot of leaders just can't swing. Once you establish a lot of these bodies, it gives you at least a turn to be able to swing into it for free, and also having the body to address it. Kind of like that Luffy, it's a continuous 7 as long as that's on the field. But these are more on play but stuns. Like the Bonnie gets that Law Beppo. Shanks has this. Momonosuke for Yamato, it's just buffs to be able to deal with that UP Luffy that the East didn't have.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I
I
like-
might be. Oh, go ahead, Johnny.
Now, also I like having all these, like to combat that, but it also worries me that they're adding all these cards that raise like the base power, and so some decks where it's like you can't really play on curve anymore just because you're forced to having trying to swing at like the 6 or 7k leaders, and it's like if they keep making this, so it's like what's the point of everyone having like a base power of 5k if every card's just gonna keep increasing the power?
Well, they're probably prepping for that Goldie Roger that Kuma brought up. Being a 7k leader, you're not going to be able to do nothing unless you are at that 7k stat line. And I'm sure once it's out, a lot of people will be shifting over to that red-purple Roger deck.
Yeah, as of right now, the 7k leader thing, I don't think it's bothering me too much. So I did immediately, because I think I was like homesick or something, and I saw the reveal for the 9 cost Shanks. I was like, this is stupid. And then I think after about 1 hour, I realized, I don't think this 9 cost Shanks is even that good. And for right now, I don't think it's that good. As like, if I'm just looking at it as a Shanks deck, I'd rather be playing other cards.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Shanks nowadays has shifted more to a control package to be able to deal with the GP, with the new gates and all that. This really doesn't have much space in the deck to really take out of that control aspect that it's at right now.
I think
Yeah,
it's
it
a
just
really good card, but just like, I think we were mentioning earlier, by the time we'd be able to play this card for uh the cheaper cost, which probably gonna be your 9 and 10 don turn anyways, where you could just play out these characters. You'd probably rather play out your other characters like Rayleigh or Dragon or 10 cost Shanks, either of them.
Yeah, and then the Uta out of the starter deck is just it's a 2K
That I think is really good.
six cost 4, but again, I just feel like for Shanks, terrible. For RP Uta, it can work.
Yeah, for Shanks, the only real card that I think it really got is that Uda. The 9 cost Shanks is just going to be dependent, but if we're just looking at it as against Blooper Beluffy, like, it's just not enough, and it just takes up a spot. Like, against other matchups, I'd rather have other top end. So, like, the Shanks deck, starter deck, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's really that great.
I don't either. The Beckman, you're trashing a card to be able to pop when you utilize Newgate. You could just rest and pop. You're dwindling your hand size with this Ben Beckman. And the Yasop is essentially that starter deck 1 Nami.
Yeah, it's
Well,
so
the Beckman
bad.
is only base power too, so like you can't even like reduce something to pop it.
Yeah, and then it's just for what Shanks wants to do. It's not it.
Yeah, for the cost for the car. Yeah, it's just everything. It just felt, besides the initial reaction of 9 cost Shanks, like, everything else felt lukewarm. But then afterwards, I think the winner out of the starter decks is Uda. But that's not, like, it's a good card, but it's not doing anything necessarily to really power up the deck. So that's kind of where that's at.
Yeah,
So
and that's where I
I don't
say
know.
RP to eating good for this. But on to the
I'll
last
say I just have
starter.
one quick comment. I think that Uta, you know what I actually think is really good in? Red Purple Luffy, just because you ramp up very fast and start playing 10k bodies, especially if you play a 10 cost, get another turn Luffy, you could just play this out the next turn and get another. You could just. I don't know if Red Purple Luffy really play that card anymore, but you could. And then you just have. You can just play this blocker for 2 the next turn. And so I think there's possibility to play that in that deck.
Is Uda leader locked though?
No.
Or is
No.
that what not?
It just says if you have a character with 10k power or more, give it
Yeah,
minus
it's by
4 cost.
power. Yeah, it'll probably
There
be
was,
better in RP.
There was someone that was like saying how the which deck was it? The Red Green Smoker can get fancy with like its dot allotment to like a kid and something and like play off like a Rosamund and that Uta in the same turn. Like, it just gives you more blocker options.
Yeah, but yeah, for that deck, I think that's pretty much it. I think that was actually probably. I think that was the worst starter deck. Like, after all the reveals settled down, I think that's the worst starter deck as a whole.
Which is acceptable for a deck that didn't necessarily need it.
Oh, if it got really good support, my hate for Shanks would go up even more.
Yeah, I was say before. We should have mentioned this before, but all of us, none of us are really red players, and so we're kind of just like, yeah, Shanks our deck. I hope it's not good.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think Johnny should start off the little Bonnie deck review, because I still have mixed feelings about it. But yeah, I'll let you kind of take that one away.
I was gonna say, if people didn't know, I've been a Bonnie player since the leader came out in 07 and playing ever since. I personally like the cards in the starter deck. They're good like consistency pieces, but overall it doesn't really impact like your current matchups. It just makes like the deck overall like slightly better and more consistent, but it doesn't really like help you like sway your bad matchups, and it just kind of reinforces your good matchups are just better.
Yeah, I looked at it as, again, the best card out of it I think is Kid and Killer. But but after looking at this, like what we got, besides just obviously like 2K swapping, the Bonnie deck is so tight where it's at right now, because if you take away like the powerful 5 drops we're using, Smoker we can get away from, that's fine, but like Carrot takes up spots, our counters take up spots. Depending on meta, especially right now, we play so many like low end blockers where it's like, well, if we want to fit in these cards, we're gonna have to, take some stuff away. And then our 10-drop Law and Beppo, like, it's like, yeah, being a 7K leader is awesome. I just really hate that it's a 10 Don card. I would have been cool if it was like 9 costs 10K and still have the effect, because as of right now, unless we have like an Arouge or a Kid and Killer or something else to refresh a Dawn on our field, then we play that and then we don't have our leader ability. So that's where I feel like I don't love it.
I think I'm fine with that because I think it's really depend on the matchup, because some of these matchups go slow enough where they really only have like one character on board, and so you just Law and Beppo stun their character, and it's like they really don't have any other swings anyways, and so you're effectively just taking out. You basically have your quote-unquote leader effect since you took away one of the attacks already for the turn.
And
Yeah,
their
I-
turn by being a 7K leader as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And then if they want to play another big body, yeah. I mean, I guess like currently, if we're just looking at what we have Bonnie at the end of OPO 10, like if I had the starter deck in my hand right now, I mean,
Thing is, if I
I
had it
guess
right now,
for
I'd swap
Jinx.
out like almost all these. I'd swap like all these cards into the deck. Like that's how I think they're good, like stronger consistency pieces. I would just swap in.
yeah, I think if we do that, I think we do have to. Not that we're necessarily playing differently, but like we kind of are. Like I guess we can just get rid of Shanks. It's just my only problem is Katakuri, I guess. Katakuri blocker. I think that's honestly like one of my only problems, like seeing the 10 costs, was it's just like Katakuri, even though it doesn't refresh at the start, like it just refreshes at the end of turn.
But
Like
usually they
I don't know.
they play it off Sanji, so you just stun the Sanji instead.
Yeah, it's just I don't think these cards are necessarily helping our harder matchups too much. Because like aggro, we're just not really worried about too much. But like our harder matchups that are coming up, it's like I don't know how much this really changes Bonnie. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm not saying these cards are awful. It was just kind of like I'll try it out, but it doesn't like really shift Bonnie into a new place.
Now
Which
for
some
the
people are okay with, but I'm not. It needs to be
now for the real winner of the starter deck, it's Carrot. I'm so excited to put this Law and Beppo into my Carrot deck. That's what I always thought about Carrot. I thought the deck was good if it just had like a boss monster. For Minx, it would actually be like really good.
Well, you can
And
restand it too.
Yeah, and we finally got the boss monster for the deck, like in Surge.
Yeah, just use a Sharpie and just Sharpie out Law on there, so it's just Beppo.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, it just works really well because even if you don't have any Minx on field, you could play it, stun whatever, like 8 or 9 drop, and then you could tap their 5 drop or whatever, and then swing your 7K leader into it now and clear it. And so
Yeah.
you're able to just have a lot more control of the board with this card. And like I've been running a lot to the 10 drop Doflamingo in my version of Carrot. and just not being able to like search it out just really hurts because you're just relying on your cycling, hoping you find it, and they're not just all at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, it'll help. It'll help a bit, if, when you want to bring Carrot. But I don't know. I think that's it for the starters, right?
That is all 6 starters.
Yeah. So yeah, we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I'm excited to see just how OP11 works with these starters compared to Japan, who did have them. So
Yeah,
just having a
and
whole new format.
we have about 1 week before we start seeing everything in action, which, like how you're saying, I'm very excited to see how we take the OP11 meta compared to the East.
I say I'll just be honest. If people like, if everyone's just playing blue purple Luffy, I think Buggy just rises up because of this. Because I don't think blue purple really has much to do against it.
Barely, I don't know. And then the purple black being able to ramp and then just go mid range aggressive to them too. So that's where I feel like our meta could shift, but we really need these starter decks to really see it. 'Cause if not, we're gonna be riding that same blue purple Luffy wave.
Don't worry, I'm playing Buggy and I'm just 10 dropping whatever Katakuri you're playing down every turn.
Alright, Kuma, you got anything else?
No, I basically said everything that I need to.
Alright, so for our first podcast, that is it. If you guys have made it this far, make sure you guys drop down in the comments down below what you guys want to hear us talk about next time. Again, we still have a week till official release, so we'll see where this whole thing goes and what we end up seeing. And we'll just catch you guys in the next one.